please. And
good night. I was hoping to get a chance to speak before most people here and those at home would fall asleep, you know, because I think it's very important. We don't have a lot of people here tonight, and somebody said it's because of some foolishness.
Sir. Please pose a question.
The reason I am making a comment more than a question, right? Because the reason why a lot of people are not even here, but because a lot of people don't go to a lot of things these days. But a lot of people are disinterested or indifferent because of the confusion that has been set out there by people who are intelligent and should know better and should be offering guidance to who they call the little man, the man on the street, and all those euphemisms they use for the people who they are bamboozling and misguiding. The CCJ is a logical step in our historical evolution as a sovereign and dignified people. That is what the CCJ is. It is part of constitutional reform. And all the people who are making noise about this constitutional reform all of a sudden only start to say so a month or two ago. We never heard that before. All of a sudden we want all this constitutional reform, rewrite the whole constitution. People who were in power for more than a decade now suddenly find out that we want the whole house, the whole thing must be changed, otherwise we mustn't change any part of it at all. It's all or nothing. That can't make sense. And sowing that seed of confusion out there among ordinary people, and then coming and telling us ordinary people are turned off. They will be turned off of you very soon when they realize how you're fooling them. In the mid-1970s, there was Eric Gary, the Premier of Grenada, who had become despotic and unleashing his mongoose gang to brutalize opposition and so forth. Maurice Bishop, the leader of the New Drill movement opposition in Grenada, whose father had been murdered in an opposition demonstration and all that, was demonstrating in the streets of Grenada saying, no independence under Gary, because Gary wanted to go towards independence. The late Leonard Tim Hector, chairman of the ACLM in Antigua, told Maurice Bishop, what you're chatting is foolishness. How can we be organizing Liberation Day marches in the region year after year in solidarity with our people in Africa, sacrificing their lives, fighting with arms for independence, and down here saying that we don't want independence? He said it can't make sense. Independence is independence. It's the dignified thing to do. But here's how petty and partisan politics comes into the question. The PLM was in government in Antigua between 71 and 76. And George Walter had begun to speak about independence. The Labour Party didn't love that because George Walter would have become the first Prime Minister. And so Lester Bird, as a colleague, legal colleague and friend of Maurice Bishop, was encouraging him to go ahead saying no independence under Gary. The PLM lost power in 76. The Labour Party now could not suddenly begin saying that it was for independence. So they came up with a foolish thing that I hear being said now. Lester Bird said, we are waiting for the correct psychological moment. The PLM people didn't expect that psychological moment to arrive now because Bird was back in power. You see the foolishness that we have. And how did we arrive at the correct psychological moment? How did Lester Bird know? The ALP had its annual convention, and when Lester Bird got up to speak, and he says, now the question of independence. All the little illiterate former cane cutters and so on, who they've been fooling and bamboozling, they say, I don't want no independence, stupidness, no independence. And Lester Bird said, yes, we must have it. Because that was an indication that we had arrived at the correct psychological moment. You see the stupidity that partisan politics creates? So if we had had a referendum in 1975 on the question of independence, or in 1980 on the question of independence, we would have been the last people, maybe after everybody else gone, out of shame. Because while we were playing the fool in the 70s, Dominica went and came a republic. Grenada went at the independence. Everybody was going except Antigua, that led the Americas in universal adult suffrage in 1952. When people are all in Latin America, United States, blacks and women fighting to vote, still women up there. Full adult suffrage in Antigua, 1952. And we were now trailing in independence because this party don't want it when that's it. So, you see right away, this is, as I said, a logical step, the CCJ, in our historical evolution as a sovereign and dignified people. So no matter how convenient it may seem in terms of narrow partisan politics to oppose it, it is never, never, never right to be on the wrong side of history. And that is what's going on here. Just for pure, narrow political convenience, you're placing yourself on the wrong side of history against the forward movement of people. I have heard the terms used here tonight, and well, I'm associated with it, I've written about it, confidence and self-pride, pride in oneself. How could any self-respecting person come and sit down there and turn anti-colonial argument upside down? Because you want to break from the old colonial privy council that enslaved us and saw us being hung, murdered and brutalized and so on and raped, and sit down in England and say that is all right. Now you're moving away from it, they're telling you you're not being anti-colonial. I don't understand the logic. You sit down and it's just not making sense, and then start to say, oh well, you have allegiance to the Queen, so how are you going to move away to CCJ? I just don't understand the confusion. I don't understand it in European clothes, I don't understand it in Afro clothes. Because I don't understand it. You put Afro on Jack, and the surname is still the same. Thank you.